Hello everyone. All week I've been living with this beautiful Ara Blue Audi RS3, courtesy of the lovely people at Audi UK. Now for those of you who haven't been following this series, I recently compared it with its smaller brother, the S3. Now I promised that I'd give this car a pretty hard time, and I'm sure a few of you felt that perhaps that test was a little bit weighted in the RS3's favour. Well, today I'm going to be turning the tables and giving the 3 something much more difficult to match up to. In fact, I'm going to be comparing this with perhaps the best car to ever wear an RS badge. It's this. This is my good friend and local pistonhead den mother Darren's Sprint Blue 2006 Audi RS4. This is an incredibly nice car. Now, long-term viewers of the channel may recognize it because it has appeared before. I compared it with my E46 M3 about 18 months ago, and I couldn't have picked a more different day to revisit it. You see, last time we didn't even see temperatures above 0, and today we're unlikely to see temperatures below 30. And we've come to the middle of the beautiful Norfolk countryside where combine harvesters are cutting the field, and we're going to see how these two RS cars compare. Now you might be thinking that the comparison of cars with a dozen years apart and probably about £30,000 difference in price is completely unfair. And in many ways you'd be right. But I don't think it's the crazy comparison that you may believe. Here's a few reasons why. Now the first thing to look at is the size. As you can quite clearly see, this RS3 is nearly the same size as the 4. And in fact, the RS3 saloon is a little bit longer and has roughly the same proportions. Personally, I think the RS3 saloon is one of the best looking cars that Audi currently make. Now, although under the hood they may be quite different, this packing a V8, this a turbo 5-pot, the numbers are fairly similar. This one has around 420 horsepower. This one is around 400, but counters by having a considerably larger slug of torque a lot lower down, courtesy of course of that turbocharger. The other interesting thing is that when this car was new, it cost roughly the same as what this car does today. Now, if I was to do this comparison with a lot of other manufacturers, you would see a clear evolution of the brand. 15 years ago, a naturally aspirated engine and a manual gearbox was fairly standard. But actually, this car stands out as very much an oddball in the Audi lineup. Even before this car came out, Audi were heavily invested in turbocharging. It was one of their signature things, along with the Quattro all-wheel drive. Now there is a difference in the way the Quattro works between these two cars. This has the very common and popular Haldex system, whereas this uses a more traditional Torsen system. Really, we need to get them out to see how different they actually feel. So let's do that. Now we're going to take the RS3 out first. Now you've actually been in one of these before.
Yes, yeah. I've passengered in one.
Of this, the facelift?
Of the facelift. And I have driven a first gen TT RS, or the previous generation TT.
I've not driven a hot TT.
It was good. It was powerful. I'm sure the new one is infinitely better than the old. It did understeer quite a bit.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's go straight into that juicy topic. Because
well, if we're going down the road, I think
we are.
I actually, on the test drive, I took the TTRS down that road. It was a few years ago, but I do remember that it was sort of a little bit understeering. Oh, that's nice. See, this just pulls so much better than my RS4.
It's a very characterful engine. It's lovely.
It's 5-cylinder wall is good.
And it actually, this morning I realised it actually picks up a lot, about 5.5. Like, it's very unusual for a turbo. It's got a real like last gasp of performance. You drive this car off the front.
Yeah.
But unlike other front-wheel drive or front-engine all-wheel drive cars, it doesn't feel dominated by the front.
No. Okay.
You know, so you're aware of it, but it's not getting in the way.
Have you driven a standard one, or had experience of of one with sort of the standard front wheels? Tires?
No.
Okay.
This is my only RS3 experience at all. I mean, I drove the S3 the other day. I've driven a couple of Golf Rs, which have got a familial resemblance. So interior-wise, then, because obviously one of the things about these cars is they're both likely to be an only car. I mean, that's the appeal of these cars. I mean, I speak to a lot of people that say, like, oh, for 50 odd K, like, you could just go and get, I don't know, like, you know, an A4 diesel and an Elise for the weekends type thing. But for a lot of people, that's not possible.
An option, yeah. They have one parking space or a single garage.
Yeah, or you know, you have to do family duties quite a bit, etc., etc. So, as a place to be, how would you say this compares to your car?
Well, I mean, it's a step on in terms of technology. I mean, I'm surprised with how, because I have driven newer Audis, courtesy cars and whatnot, so I get sort of spoiled with sort of comparing the latest interiors with mine whenever my car goes in. And the thing that strikes me is that it's still very Audi. It's just like it's been given a Botox injection. You know? It's everything is still there. It's just the next generation on. So you look at my infotainment. It's very much sort of a decade old. You know, you can tell that it is. But that's nice.
Oh, we're in manual mode still, apparently. That's interesting though. It didn't override.
No.
Size-wise, we reckon it's similar as well, though. You said the back maybe is a little compromised.
When I've sat in the saloon of this generation A3, physically, it's the physical size of the thing is very similar to mine, such as the rate of progress. But yeah, the interior, you're looking at maybe a couple of inches, a couple of 3 inches, sort of less in legroom. See, I do like that sound.
Yeah, this is the thing, you see. I think if we were comparing your car with the S3, I mean, the S3 sounds quite nice as 4 cylinders go. Actually, it sounds very nice as 4 cylinders go, but it's a 4-pole. To me, it doesn't excite particularly engine-wise, but this has got so much character. And maybe it's controversial, I don't know. And I did promise people that, you know, okay, this is an Audi press car, but I'll still be honest about it. I think this is a better engine than the V6 they use in the RS4 now.
Okay, I've no experience of that.
Well,
yet.
My biggest issue with the engine in the RS4 now is it has a 3-litre V6. So really, as far as, you know, if you're an Audi history buff, that's actually sort of the classic formula, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what they went back to, because the B5 was what, a 2.7?
2.7 Cosworth derived, I believe.
Yeah.
Twin turbo V6.
So it's a classic sort of setup. Now, very effective, very fast, but my major issues were it didn't sound particularly inspiring.
Farmers farming.
Countryside, everybody.
Can't complain, because they helped us in the winter.
Oh, yes. It didn't sound particularly inspiring, and it just had too low a red line. So it only revs to just over 6.
Oh, okay. So this goes all the way almost.
This goes to 7.
Yeah.
This will go to 7.
Oh, will it? Okay.
So I always felt that with that engine, it feels like it's just about to get into its stride, and then you have to change gear. Also, that engine is mated to the ZF8 speed,
right?
Whereas this is the S-Tronic.
Yeah.
And again, I just prefer the S-Tronic.
Oh, okay.
If I'm going to choose an auto type box, I'll personally always choose a double clutch over an auto box. I mean, that ZF is very, very good. Like, as an auto box goes, it's the best out there.
Yeah.
But it just, I know, for me, when I think of RS4, I think of your car. And you know, that engine is a defining part of your car.
Yeah.
And so for it to have lost that, I'm like, yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about ride quality.
yours rides better.
Yeah.
Or,
Now
well,
this is actually in comfort.
press car.
This is yes. I'm not one of those YouTubers. I'm not claiming this is my new RS3. No, this is Audi's car. So you've got in here the setup. So actually, there's quite a few options to choose from in individual mode. I have everything in dynamic except the suspension, which is comfort, and the cruise control, which I don't care about.
When I drove the B8 RS4, that's exactly how I had it. And it's interesting the amount of UK-based journalists that will say that as well about the cars. It's just because of our roads.
Yeah, they're not good enough for a stiff suspension.
No, and I mean, you know, when you've got that extra compliance in comfort, that means that you can press on in added safety because you've got that you've got that travel and you're not hopping and skipping.
Wow.
People say if you want the fun, you go for a BMW. If you want the hooligan nature, you go for an AMG. And if you want to get somewhere in all weathers, very, very quickly cross country, then take the Audi.
See, but even BMW and Merc, though, they're both now going down what I'd call the Audi route. Like you say, see, a few years ago, I would have said, if you take the big three German guys, you go Audi, okay, that'll be the turbocharged engine with the all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And you go Mercedes, okay, that'll be the thumping great big V8 with the rear-wheel drive and a nice luxurious interior, but it won't be the last word in handling. Then the BMW will have a high revving, naturally aspirated engine, but they change what their configuration is quite a bit. But it'll be rear wheel drive again. And now they're all turbocharged.
Yeah.
They've all more or less got all-wheel drive in some of the models.
Yeah.
Okay, the M4 is still two-wheel drive.
The equivalent to this would be the M2 competition,
Yes.
which is still rear wheel, I guess.
Yeah, and I love the M2 to pieces, and even the 140 and then the 235 and all that. And I've driven those. I've driven Tom's red one, and that's a great car. But the one thing this will then have, which is a consideration if you are going to daily it, is the all-weather capability. And that's one thing I had when I was driving the Civic Type R. Loved that car. Handles amazingly. You know, on a dry day, this would not be able to leave that Civic. But if it's even a little bit damp, the Civic just scrabbles. It just can't. So let's now hop into the older car and see what it's like driving the Legend after the Young Pretender. I think you sit in it, and I think a lot of, if you're used to that, I think people will sit in this and they'll go, oh, it's a 12-year-old Gallardo. You know, but really this system is like the progenitor of the one in there, like they've just evolved and evolved and evolved. One thing I will say that I really like about both interiors is that the screen is unobtrusive. A lot of cars now, the BM do it and the Merc do it, but the screen is kind of always stuck there and it looks like it should go away or go somewhere. But
I've never understood that. It looks like an iPad that's just been stuck on as an afterthought.
Yeah, A-Class is the worst, although they are changing that now. Have you seen the interior of the new A8 and the A7?
No, I haven't.
It's like it's come from space.
Really?
It's amazing. I mean, let's face it, Audi interiors have always been, I think, for the money, very, very good. And you know, again, so I'm in this. The first thing I can tell is that, yes, we talked earlier about there's a thing with German cars. They have this very clear hierarchy, and that is a 3, and it's the top of the tree as a 3 goes, but it's still a 3. This is a 4, and even though this is a decade-old 4, it's little things like this. The leather on this armrest is nice and soft and lovely. Now, in cars, there's two things which I think are grossly underrated in terms of their importance. That's steering wheels and seats. Now, Audi's steering wheels I actually really like. The one in there, it's nearly the same as the new R8, but it's not quite, because I think the R8's got the start button on the wheel and stuff. And
the exhaust button and things.
Yeah, so it's not the same, but I think it's the same basic shell, I expect. This is the wheel at the Gallardo, isn't it? So this wheel was an option, I'm guessing?
I can't remember which way round it was, but there was a comfort spec that you could have with this car as I believe a no-cost option.
Okay.
And that was to replace the bucket seats with some electric seats.
Yeah.
And the steering wheel could be you could have the option of a comfort steering wheel that was perfectly round. I believe that's the standard wheel in the US market, and I don't think these seats are homologated for the US.
Sounds about right. Now these seats.
I love a 5-cylinder wobble, but I like a V8 more.
So I got here a little bit before Darren today, And I was just tiny bit. No, it's fine. I was a tiny bit panicked that I'd got the timings wrong or something. And I was just setting up, taking a couple of photos of the RS3, and you could just hear this in the back, and you're like, "Yep, that's Darren. Don't even need to check. Not going to bother phoning him now. That's Darren." The gearbox in this is so good. Like, you see, this is the thing.
It's
like,
nowhere near as quick as an S-tronic will be.
I don't care.
But
I don't
it's
care.
that.
Like, it's a driving experience. Like, already there's just so much. I mean, look, I really actually am enjoying that RS3. It's a very different car. It's a very, very different car to this. So the RS3, of course, has electric steering. This is hydraulic. And there is more through this. I think there's the RS3 steering to me is a little bit too light. Now this one doesn't really have like any feedback at all. I'd say the RS3 turns a bit sharper, probably something to do with those massive fronts. And I think one of the things that Audi are conscious of, they have listened to people complaining about the cars being front heavy and so on. So that engine in the RS3 is quite a bit lighter than the one before, even though it's the same sort of basic thing. And
also that's transverse as well, whereas this is longitudinal, so you're going to have more out the front in this than you would in there.
What's the default torque split in this?
60/40 rear bias.
Let's talk fuel.
18 to 20. A week ago I had it on track and it was 9.4.
Okay, well, track's extreme. I mean, all right. On a run, on a cruise, what are you getting?
Average, you're talking sort of around the 18 to 20 mark. I mean, I did see 29 once, just once.
Was that a glitch?
That was driving like a granny on an airport run.
Yeah. So okay, so that's important. So now, obviously, it's been a while since I drove one of these, and I didn't actually check the prices of them, but we're actually just discussing, because obviously now the youngest of all of these is a decade old, and that does make a big difference. So I mean, there are some people for whom they'll always want the latest and the greatest, and of course then RS3 will happily step up. In terms of tuning as well, I think that's something that a lot of people who are buying cars now really want, especially if you've come from, let's say, your progression. The first fast car for a lot of people now is something like a Fiesta ST, and I think their success is down largely to the fact that they're very tunable. You can do a lot to them, and same with like the 595s. I know I don't like them at all, but there's loads of stuff you can do to them. Something like this.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you pile a couple of £1,000 in an RS3 tuning would see crazy figures.
Yeah,
in this you'd probably be an uprated air filter and an exhaust.
Yeah, saw it yesterday. Litchfield, who are the guys that specialise in GTRs and stuff here, they do a kit for the RS3. So as standard, that RS3 is 400 brake and 354 pound-foot of torque.
Yeah,
there you go. There's a slight giveaway as to where we are, guys, just gone past. We are in Norfolk. Now, Litchfield, give them £2,000. They'll get you 500 brake and, more scarily, 480 pound-foot of torque out of that motor. And I believe, and it's a map, an air filter, maybe a sport cat or possibly a cat delete or something along those lines. And that's crazy figures.
So let's say the things that people tend to do to these are air filter, a Miltech catback, maybe high flow cats as well, and an air filter and a remap. And with that, you're looking at anywhere between, depending on what power the car has to begin with, you're looking at 450 to 470-ish horsepower, and you're looking at about probably 330, 350 pound-feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and also you're going to be spending more than £2,000. So yeah, I mean, you can't argue with a turbo motor for its tunability.
No, not at all. Now, in terms of running costs and so on, we discussed in the previous time we saw this the suspensions. This has the Sport Suspension Plus, which is not an adaptive thing. Now, actually,
it's just a bit lower and a bit stiffer.
You were saying that the Audi the RS3 rode a lot better than this. I'd say it does, but it's not markedly
No,
different.
I mean, in this, you just get, there's more vibration coming through from the road.
The suspension itself can prove problematic, and you have had to replace 2 shocks?
Yeah, when we did the last video, I just replaced 1 shock absorber. In the meantime, 2 more have been done, and the remaining shock absorber, as of the service last year, was all okay.
And what sort of cost are we looking at for those?
Oh, what were they? 650-ish, I think they were.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to give any.
Or a pair?
Oh, each.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I mean the car's now on 93,000 miles. So basically, by 100,000 miles, these cars probably should have had a set of shocks.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them had them done under warranty, where they were sort of 40, 50,000 miles.
I don't think that's actually that hideous. I think people talk about it as a thing with these, but the reality is that I think on most vehicles, especially vehicles of this weight, by 100,000 miles, the shocks need doing anyway. I mean, my old Z4 M Coupe, they were notorious for snapping springs at like 20,000 miles.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, some cars have it. I mean, the Alfa Brera, apparently they love to eat springs. You know, I mean, okay, no, the dampers aren't the same, but it's one of these cars, some cars do have an appetite for it.
Last time I was last video, I was running the standard size discs with some uprated pads and uprated fluid. I've now upgraded again, so we're now running a 15mm larger disc. They're not cross-drilled anymore. They are, well, they're internally vented, but they're grooved. Because I was suffering micro cracking when I did take it on track. I now have stainless steel lines and a different pad compound as well, a different pad which has a different compound to what I was running before. And yeah, so far they're fantastic. So, and obviously, like I said, the brakes are done. I mean, brakes really are a maintenance item. That's anything will wear. Oh, just one other thing, sort of for full disclosure, is you're now the video before I was still running on my winter tyres. I'm now on my Michelin Pilot Super Sport Summers. So the ride, it will be a bit firmer than last time as well.
Other than that, any unexpected builds out of the car?
No, none that I can think of. I mean, it's just been.
Oh, let's address a comment from the last video, because the last video we did, we had a chap chime in and say, why did we not discuss the timing chain failures?
Yes. I did see that comment. That affected the B6 and B7 V8s. I'm pretty certain that it is the B7 as well. B6s are definitely affected. But the RS model, it's not a common issue for. I mean, like anything, timing chains wear. But I think you'd be pretty unlucky to have one that does sort of give out on an RS. Yeah, timing chains don't seem to be something that need replacement with any description of regularity. No. You know, sort of, I'm sure I've got coking issues. I've never ever had it checked. It performs to what Audi say. The power itself is a little bit down on the quoted, but then I would say that RS3, when they say 400 horsepower, you're like, yep, and this, they're like 420, you're like, yeah, it's like, if you said to me it's 350, you'd be like, oh yeah, all day long. But you're 420, you're like, I don't know. It was 4 years ago. Yeah, I think it's 4. I had this on a rolling road at a place in Norwich that specialises in VW products. So VW Audi. They did. It did just shy of 390 brake at the crank, and they said that's pretty pretty average for one of these. But then it's still, as I said, it still performs to what Audi say. The limiter isn't 155 like they claim. I've done that in Germany. I have visited Germany in this car, and you know, so I mean, it's not really sort of a major issue to me. I'd rather, before I would think about getting extra power, I would have rather done the things that I've done, which is the brakes and the tyres and
this is standard exhaust still, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, and it sounds, it's not mad, but it's pleasant. I mean, I discussed in the intro that this is such an oddball car for Audi to have made, and it's but I'm glad it exists. I mean,
so am I.
I think both you and me, I think if someone said to you, like, let's take the money out of it for something, if someone said to you and me, like, which one of these two would you take home, I think we'd both take this home.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know I would. I'd happily live with that slight lack of performance. You know, I think we're both honest. Like, equal driver, equal everything else. That is going to walk away from this.
Oh, easy.
Like, it's not just a little bit quicker. It's like, oh my word! Like it is 12 years quicker than this.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what's the standard torque on those?
354.
Yeah, this is 317, and it comes in very high in the rev range.
Yeah, I know they say on this, they're like, oh, there's 95% of it is available from low down. You're like,
you need to rev the nuts off of it.
Yeah. To
get it to be anywhere near that, but that would still,
that's so effortless, you know, with the S-tronic box, just that massive slug of torque in the middle. But I would say, in the newer car's favour, it's not actually this sort of soulless kind of electric thing that people would think of it.
No, this is the thing. I think Audi, with their performance models, have kind of been unfairly judged for giving it an automatic gearbox, and they're only replying to what customers are demanding.
That's what people like.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, yeah, they're both sort of two cracking blue cars from Audi. I mean, I enjoy them both. Yes, this is the one I take home, but I don't think we're not actually the demographic for that car.
No,
really.
No, certainly not. You know, so
I think the demographic for that car, it's probably someone maybe about 5 years younger than us. That you sort of, you know, like 18.
Well, that'd be nice. That'd be nice, considering I've just had another birthday.
We're old. No, it's a sort of thing. I think, especially the one thing as well, I really do want to say in favour of the RS3 is, I have had people asking, I've talked about it in video previously, people have said to me about that engine, and actually that engine does make up for a lot. I think if you put a more ordinary engine in that package, it wouldn't be as engaging. Genuinely, I think the last turbocharged engine I've driven that had that similar amount of character is probably like one of my Subaru units.
Oh right, okay.
I mean, that's so much better. It's got a much broader spread of torque, but actually, it's got, you know, dips and peaks in the torque. It works. It's got, you know, there's a benefit to revving it out, because I've driven a lot of turboed engines now where you're like, get to 5, you just change. There's no point. But actually, it is nice. Like you say, it's no V8. But it stands out from the competition. Well,
I mean, sort of, that's why I wanted to drive that TTRS that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
You know, it was noticeably quicker. As I said, sort of on the roads that we were that we were driving, that's where I was able to take it. And that was a manual, and like I said, it was previous gen. So I mean, that is a step on in handling. I mean, that was sort of quite a wallowy old thing, really. But the engine, the torque, it was just such a... You could see that they were sort of going in the right direction for sort of their smaller cars to have that much power, and that size engine is just wonderful.
And that's the result. So so guys, thank you very much for watching. If you want to go back in our back catalogue and watch us instead freeze our asses off rather than melt, check out the RS4 versus M3 review from some time ago. So please comment below, tell us which one of these two you'd take home, and we'll see you for the next one. Thanks now.
Subscribe.
Bye-bye. Yeah, do that. Right.